Hello everybody, I am going to walk you pretty slowly through making your own cheat sheet for remembering mean, median, and mode, the measures of central tendency. So I have some supplies here. I have a piece of computer paper. This is a regular piece of computer paper, okay? I have a pair of scissors, and I have 3 different color pens, okay, one of which I appear to have lost the cap on. I hope it works. So that's what I have going for me and what I am going to use to do this, okay? First thing I'm going to do is this piece of paper right now. I know it's hard to see. I made my iPad as high as I could, but it is a rectangle and I want to make it into a square. So to make it into a square, I'm going to take one of the corners here and I am going to fold it up to meet the other edge, so that it looks like I have a perfect little triangle there, and I'm going to fold it. And now, do you see this excess rectangle here on this side? This is the piece I don't want. This piece is the piece I don't want. So I'm going to take my scissors and just cut across this line here so that I don't have this rectangle anymore, and my paper will be a square. And I'm doing a crappy job on camera. Okay, there we go. Strong work, Kate. You did it. Okay, so I'm left with this little triangle here, and when I unfold it, it gives me the square I need, and it has a line down one side. You see that? Okay, now I am going to give myself a line going down the other diagonal by folding it again the opposite way, forming a triangle again. And now I've divvied my paper up into 4 triangles. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I am going to just trace down these lines because I want to see the visual breakup here of these 4 sections. And these are the 4 sections we are going to be writing in today. Testing my artistic ability, or at least my ability to make a straight line. Okay, so let's talk about our top section first. In my top section, this is when I want to give myself a summary of the entire concept. So I'm going to title this The Measures of Central Tendency. Measures of Central Tendency. And remember, we know that to measure something is to assign it a number. And central means middle, and tendency is your behavior, how you act. So when I talk about the measures of central tendency, I'm talking about giving a number to the way, or giving a measure to the way lists of numbers behave towards the middle. Okay, and so you are going to title this for me here. The measures of central tendency are 3 ways of looking at the middle of the data. 3 ways of looking at the middle of the data. Okay, so measures of central tendency are 3 ways of looking at the middle. And what are those 3 ways? They are the mean, the median, and the mode. Now we will use the other 3 triangles to describe these things in more detail, mean, median, and mode. But for now, I'm just going to give myself a very quick summation of each concept. So what is the mean? The mean is the average. What is the median? The median, just like when you drive down the road and the median is in the center of the road, is the centermost number. And what is the mode? The mode is the fashionable number. It is the most common. And this is all we're going to do here in this first triangle. This is just our summation of the whole topic, okay? Now, we're going to go into each one of our little sections here and fill it in with one of these measures of central tendency. So I am going to do mean here on the left-hand side. So let's see what color I was using. Okay, we're going to do mean right here. Mean. Now let's give it a full definition. I mean, we defined it in one word before, the average. But we can say a little more than that. We got some more space here. So what do I mean when I say mean? Well, also known as average. Can you see what I'm writing here? Oh, good, you can. So also known as the average. What does that mean? This is the score each item, and I mean each item in my data set, would have if the data were shared equally. I think of mean as what we would all have if the whole world was fair. If it was totally fair and everything was shared equally, that's the idea here of mean. Okay, so the question is not just what is it, but how do we find it? That's what students always want to know, but how? Okay, but how? So let's give ourselves the how here. How are we going to do this? The first one we're going to need to do is find a total of the data. Now, a lot of teachers and students oversimplify this as just add. I have to tell you, we have some example problems a little later in math where we're not just adding to find totals of data. Remember that you can add to find a total of data, but you can also multiply. If you have repeated values that happen again and again, you can use multiplication as part of your finding a total as well. Okay? And then the second step, because we want to share equally, there's only one mathematical operation that allows you to share equally, and that's division. So the second thing we're going to do after finding a total is we're going to divide. We're going to divide the total by the number of items in the data set. Careful, it's not the number of numbers. Fine distinction. But sometimes I summarize my data so that the number of numbers doesn't match the number of items in the data set. Okay, so we add or multiply or a combination of both to find the total, and then we divide to turn that total into a mean or an average. So great. Now, I just want to give you my little expert tip warning, because every kind of problem has a trick to it that the GED loves to exploit. So let's talk our expert tip. I want you to watch out for frequency tables. We'll be talking about these in class. We've seen one already. But watch out for frequency. Well, not just frequency tables, frequency in general, when something happens more than once. That's what I mean, repeated items. And be sure to account for them when finding the mean. Be sure to account for them when finding the mean. Can you still see what I'm writing? Yep, just barely. Okay, the quickest way to do this is to multiply. Okay, so for example, if I were tallying up, I was trying to find the average of the ages of my students, And I had 17 students in my class who are all 18 years old. Well, guess what? I could add the number 18 17 times, but that would take forever. I don't know what kind of time you guys are working with. I don't have that much time. So what I would choose to do instead is take that 18 years old and multiply it by 17 times, because I was given that answer 18 17 times. I hope that makes sense. be sure to check out some example problems if you want to see what I mean there. Let's get this in. So the quickest way to do this is often to multiply. Okay, great. So I finished my little speech about mean. Can you see everything in there? Just barely. Great. Now let's move on to median. So let's hit up the right side of the page. Am I fully in view? Yeah. Okay. And we are going to do our median now. So come across to here. Let's talk median. So we already compared median to the center of a road. We know from driving that when you're driving down the road, that thing in the middle is called the center. But as I like to tell my students, you can't find the median before the road is built. Similarly, in the case of a math median, the data analysis median, you cannot find the middle of a list until you order your list. So it's really important. Yes, this is the centermost number, but you need to realize that this is the centermost number in an ordered list. So let's write that down. This is the centermost number in an ordered list. Ordered. It's got to be ordered or your median is going to be a bunch of nonsense, okay? So, whoa, sorry about that. Make you seasick, right? Okay, so how are we going to do this? How? Well, the first thing you're going to need to do is put your data in numerical order. And students ask me all the time, well, should I go least to greatest or should I go greatest to least? The good news is it doesn't matter because the middle will be the same. The middle will be the same. So least to greatest, greatest to least, just make sure they're in numerical order. And then whatever is the middle number is the mode. Just like we were talking about, the middle of the road. So I build the road, and by that I mean I put the numbers in order, and then I find the centermost number, and that, did I say mode? Y'all, oh my gosh, correct me. What did I mean? I meant the median. I apologize. At least I caught myself. That'd be awful if I posted that on Facebook and taught everybody a lie. Okay, so sorry. The middle number is the median. The middle number is the median. Okay, well, no wonder I got it wrong. I was copying off of notes where I made that same exact typo. Oh my gosh, I'm fired. Okay, but I have a really big butt to this. Y'all, if y'all know me, you know I do have a really big butt. But anyway, not that kind of butt. The 1T kind of butt. Let's talk butt. Careful, because sometimes something weird will happen. Sometimes, and a lot of my students recognize this, this is when you have an even number of numbers, but you don't have to memorize that. What you do have to know is sometimes you will have two numbers in the middle. There's not one number perfectly centered. There's actually two. So what are you going to do when you have two numbers in the middle? Or two numbers in the exact center. Well, I joke around and call that a mini mean, because basically what you're going to do is find the mean of just those two numbers. Just those two numbers. So you're going to add those two numbers. You're looking for the perfect center. Sometimes you'll be able to tell what the perfect center is without adding. For example, like if you had the two numbers 4 and 6 in the middle, I know what number is perfectly between 4 and 6. It's 5. But if you can't tell like that, then you can always do this mini mean idea. You can add the two numbers and then divide by 2. It's like you're finding the mean of just two numbers. Okay, that's why I call it a mini mean. So I'll write that there. And that's so you can find the perfect center of them. So let's get our expert tip here, the expert tip. And this one's silly. This one always makes me a little sad when students don't follow this. The biggest mistake that students make when doing median problems, actually, the first biggest mistake is they just forget to order the list. They just go whatever number's in the middle and they go, hey, it's the median, without putting the numbers in order. But after that, the second biggest mistake that students make is they just forget numbers. When they're making their list, they leave numbers out. So my expert tip is count your numbers to make sure you have them all. If you have 7 numbers that you were given and you only wrote down 6, hey, you missed one. And that's really all I'm saying. So count your numbers to make sure you have them all before finding the median. Make sure you have them all in your list. Am I going to have space for this? Included them all in your list. If you guys saw what a ghetto makeshift recording studio I have set up here with the iPad, you would not wonder why I'm all scrunched. Okay, cool. So we have the mean, we have the median. What's left? So for our bottom portion here, we are going to do mode. Mode. Put that right across the top of this bottom triangle here, mode. And we already said what mode was. I think it's really important, though, that you don't write that it's the most common number, because mode can actually work for qualitative data. So meaning sometimes a mode is actually a word. Like, for example, if I wanted to find the mode of my class's favorite colors, it's whichever favorite color they chose the most would be the mode. So if the most students said red, then red would be the mode. And so don't say the most common number, say the most common item in the data set, because data isn't always numbers. It's often numbers, but it's not always numbers. So it's the most common item in the data set. Okay, now how are we going to find the most common item in the data set? I have to tell you the truth. I won't write this down because it's not necessary, but if you already have your list organized for median, it's going to be way easier to do this without messing up. So if they are already in order, then you're going to be lucky. It's going to be easier to do this. But you don't have to put them in order. What do you have to do? You just count the number of times each item appears. That you got the same answer, basically. If you have a list of numbers, you're going to count the number of times you saw each number. That's known as the frequency, guys. So if a number only appeared once, it has a frequency of 1. If it appeared 7 times, it has a frequency of 7, so on and so forth. I hope that makes sense. A frequency. And then what are you going to do with that? Well, the number with the highest frequency is the mode, because it's the most common. I shouldn't say number. I just got in trouble. What should I say? The item, because it's not always a number. Sorry, I already did it. The item with the highest frequency is the mode. Not hard math. We all know how to count, right? That was the first thing we learned in math class. So highest frequency is the mode. And can we still see what I'm writing? We can, but I need space. Oh my gosh, I'm going to have to fold my beautiful notes over so you guys can see. This makes me a little sad. Okay, so I got the bottom of my sheet up here. So I'm going to finish with my little expert tip for mode. Mode can be pretty tricky. In fact, it's one of the sorry. One of the most common ones the GED tries to trick you with. If you're expecting a trick problem, expect it around mode. The first way they try to trick you is like we said, the data could be words, so the mode could be a word. But we already talked about that one. So here's some other ones. You need to know that it's possible for a set to be bimodal. Bimodal. What does bimodal mean? Well, obviously, modal is that adjective that relates to a mode, so something to do with the mode. But what does bi mean? Well, just like a bicycle has two wheels, the prefix bi means two. Bicycle, two wheels. Bimodal means two modes. So it's possible for a set to be bimodal, to have two modes. So they could say, what's the mode of this set? And you might say 3 and 5. Red and blue. You could have more than one answer, okay? But be careful. It's also possible for a set to have no mode. There's a couple of ways the set could have no mode. First of all, there could be like all the numbers could have the same number of frequency. They all have the same, you know, there's no mode there. Like, for example, if every student in my class was a different age, there's no mode of the ages because we're all different, okay? Nothing happened more often than anything else. But that's not the only way a set could have no mode, okay? You need to be aware that if more than two numbers are tied for the highest frequency, so if you have more than two, I said numbers again. Can we say items, Kate? I'm really going to get good at this, I swear. So if more than two items are tied, so 3, 4, 5, for the highest frequency, the most common, you're just going to go ahead and say that there's no mode. We say then, yeah, you know, with so many numbers up on top, it's not really, doesn't make much sense to talk about what was most of the class was like this or most of the data was like that. Okay, a three-way tie or more, and we start saying we have no mode. So if more than two items are tied for most common, the set is considered to have no mode. I think I'm just going to barely get my notes in here. Okay, so we have finished our measures of central tendency little cheat sheet for notes. Remember that the measures of central tendency are fair game for the math test, the science test, and the social studies test. So what a quick, good way to review, to have this at your side as you're studying and to get used to it. Also, just the fact that we set this up spatially like you, we all have a spatially like this. We all have a spatial memory we can tap into. So as you're taking your test and you're going, wait, which one was mean? You might be able to picture that mean was over here in this triangle, and it can further help you to remember what mean is, and so on and so forth. Okay, so all done with this. Watch out for example videos coming in the near future on how to work each one of these problems.